We are racing toward a hypothetical future of absolute post-scarcity, a world where physical labor is entirely automated and human effort is strictly optional. It is the prevailing theology of Silicon Valley, etched into the architecture of modern tech campuses. The billionaires leading this charge imagine a specific kind of future, what we might call a Layer 7 vision. In computing, Layer 7 is the application layer, the frictionless interface where users interact without seeing the machinery underneath. Their ambition is to build a society where machines handle the heavy lifting of the physical world, freeing humans to live entirely in a frictionless layer of pure leisure and thought. The ultimate objective here is to close the existential ledger, to engineer every physical deficit, every biological need, and every ounce of human suffering down to absolute zero. But that vision rests on a massive assumption. We take it as a given that if we subtract all of our physical needs, what remains is pure, unadulterated happiness. There is a serious conflict between the flawless software of this utopian dream and the actual biological firmware running inside of us, the millions of years-old hardware that powers our bodies. When you try to deploy a frictionless societal protocol onto a nervous system that was specifically built to survive friction, the system crashes. If we somehow engineer a world with absolutely no physical deficits left, we might accidentally subtract the very mechanism that makes us human in the first place. To understand why, we have to look past macro-societal futures and zoom all the way down to the microscopic definition of life itself. At its most basic level, a living organism is essentially a boundary, and that boundary requires a constant input of external energy just to maintain itself and keep from dissolving. That means a biological self is not a static object. By definition, a self is an ongoing deficit. You are a biological entity that constantly needs things you do not have. The moment you have a biological need, the world sorts itself into things that help you, harm you, or do neither. That sorting process is the literal foundation of meaning. The environment is now mapped purely by its utility to your survival. Meaning didn't arrive with complex human thought or high-level philosophy. It was born the very first time a boundary needed something outside itself to survive. Scale that biological sorting process back up to the level of complex human psychology, and it dictates our daily motivations. As the philosopher George Spencer Brown's work suggests, meaning is the shadow a deficit casts on the world. The psychological consequence of absolute abundance is severe. If you subtract every physical and biological need you have, you lose all salience. Without a deficit, nothing stands out to you as helpful or harmful. There is a direct, unbreakable connection between human narratives and a sense of lack. Put quite simply, stories run on hunger. If you successfully subtract all biological friction and hunger from a human life, you effectively erase the story of that life. Which brings us back to that AI-driven, post-scarcity future Silicon Valley is rushing to build. It forces us to ask a difficult mathematical and existential question. If hunger equals zero, does story equal zero? By engineering a world where humanity has absolutely no physical deficits left, we accidentally erase the shadow that generates our meaning. This frictionless utopia is not a paradise. It is what systems architects call the ultimate sealed seam, a closed, dogmatic system that refuses to interact with or take patches from outside reality. The technological dream of absolute abundance is a potential existential trap. It is a self-imposed void that, by trying to perfect the human experience, eliminates it. The goal of our existence should not be to transcend all of our physical needs through technology, nor should it be to blindly let those needs conquer us. Instead, we have to actively tend to our needs, much like a garden. We need to treat meaning as an open account that requires maintenance, rather than a math problem to be permanently solved. Sanity itself requires a permeable boundary of friction. We need an environment where the physical territory can still push back against our internal maps. What remains when you finally stop keeping score and demanding a perfectly balanced ledger from the universe is a gratuitous zoo, a reality filled with exuberant, unscripted life. It's worth wondering what definitive lines you've drawn on your own map and what rivers might wash them away next spring.